So you mentioned how much respect you have for Giannis's game. Which other players do you see with a similar mentality that you really admire and respect?
Joker, John Morant, Steph, Clay, all the top players pretty much get my respect. They play their own style, they play their own way, but the fact when Giannis came out and said, I'm not going to the big city, I'm not teaming up with people, I was like, that's how I used to think.
Shaquille O'Neal just said what most people have been thinking for years. And this time, LeBron James and Kevin Durant walked right into the middle of it. A podcast, a smirk, and one comment about Michael Jordan later, and the whole basketball world is picking sides. What happened next is something nobody was fully prepared for.
Every time you get better as a player, I truly feel that you got to recommit and sign that contract with yourself every so often. Like, all right, yeah, I'm 10, 12 years in, I got 4 MVPs and 4 championships. Like, but do I still want to do this shit? You know what I'm saying?
You know how hard it is.
Some people say, I want to go play baseball.
Right?
Yeah. And then I want to come back. Or some people say, I'm going to go 22 straight. And, you know what I'm saying? So it's a contract I feel like you got to have with yourself, too, in order for you to be a great ball player or to have a long career. That's the goal, to be in the league for 20 years. I tell you, that's the goal. However you want to get there, but you got to recommit to yourself before you commit to anything else.
Here is the question before we get into it. Do you think LeBron and KD genuinely disrespect Michael Jordan's legacy? Or are they just trying to rewrite history to make themselves look better? Tell us exactly what you think in the comments. Let's start with the line that cracked everything open. Because sometimes one sentence says more than an entire press conference ever could. So you want me to pay you $30 million to play 30 games? Hell no. That was Shaquille O'Neal. No filter, no publicist, no carefully worded statement reviewed by a media team. Just a man who played 82 games repeatedly, who competed through injuries, who showed up night after night in front of paying fans, saying out loud what a growing number of people have been too polite to say.
Hold on. You said LeBron James the greatest player ever?
Ever.
What about Michael and Kobe?
Kobe Bryant couldn't fill, or Michael Jordan fill LeBron's shoes. The impact that he's had with different teammates, different organizations.
Would you be mad at me if I just walked off the show?
You can't leave.
Whoever's paying him to say all this stuff, I will pay you double to stop it.
Hold on.
Shaq.
Load management. The sanitized, analytics-approved term for professional athletes choosing not to play basketball while being paid generational money to play basketball. Shaq did not dress it up. He did not acknowledge the nuance. He went straight at it with the kind of directness that only comes from someone who genuinely cannot believe this has become a normal conversation in professional sports. And then he did something even more effective. He named names. Jerry West, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird. He reminded everyone that the people who built the NBA into the billion-dollar enterprise it is today, the people whose legacies LeBron and Durant profit from every single day, played through things that would have modern players calling their agents at halftime. Bare-bones medical treatment, long flights in coach seats, paychecks that would not cover what a current bench player makes in a week. And they showed up. Every night. No excuses.
As long as you played, you only missed 80 games. First question is how, and the second question is, does it upset you now when you see these superstars doing load management?
Load management, wow. I could play, 25, 30 years with load management. I sit home and think about that. I made a commitment to stay in shape. Season was over. I took off 2 weeks, go somewhere and...
2 weeks?
2 weeks.
I took off 2 months.
Yeah.
You play basketball 2.5 hours a day, 3 hours a day. That's your job. That's what you get paid to do as an NBA player. What are you doing the other 21 hours? To me, that's when you should be preparing for your next day of work.
Oh, it's because I can't get up for these meaningless games. I mean, Coach Curtis told me one day, he said he pulled me to the side a few years back. It's when we were competing for a championship. And it was the end of the season, maybe last 7 games. We had already locked up the 1 seed or the 2 seed, whatever we were going to be. And I'm like out there just going through the motions. He pulled me to the side. He said, you have to be the worst meaningless basketball game player I've ever seen in my life. You want to just come out the game? And I'm like, well, coach, I've been playing now. Like, I can't just come out the game. He like, all right, well, let's figure out a way to get you sitting 3 or 4 of these last 7 games and still.
That quote deserves to sit there for a moment because it is genuinely hard to argue against. When you strip away all the recovery science and the load management logic and the player empowerment language, what you are left with is exactly what Shaq is describing. These are people being paid tens of millions of dollars to play a sport. A sport, not coal mining, not construction work, not a job where physical danger is unpredictable and constant. Basketball. In arenas with the best medical staff money can buy, with nutritionists and trainers and recovery technology that the legends Shaq mentioned could not have dreamed of. And the conversation we are having is about whether they should have to play 82 games. The pushback came quickly. Draymond Green stepped in to defend the sit-out culture because of course he did. Austin Rivers tried to joke it off with the observation that old players who played every game now walk around with bad knees, as if the solution to physical wear is to simply not do your job while collecting your salary. That is a fascinating logical leap that somehow gets treated as reasonable discourse in the modern NBA. Shaq was not having it. This rest stuff just drives me crazy. You're playing basketball for a living. I understand if you work in a coal mine that you may need a rest day, but you're playing basketball. Even Nikola Jokic, who, to his credit, is one of the hardest workers in the league when he shows up, fumbled the question about mandatory games, shrugging and essentially saying the league probably wants players to show up more, but what can you do? What can you do? That is the attitude Shaq is calling out. The casual acceptance of a culture where not playing is a valid and respected option for a professional athlete in prime condition. The average NBA salary just crossed $10 million this season. Maximum contracts are pushing toward $60 million annually. Fans are spending real money, money that represents meaningful portions of their actual budgets to watch these players perform. And the return on that investment is increasingly unpredictable because any given night, the player they came to see might be listed as a healthy scratch for rest. It is like buying a concert ticket and finding out the headliner decided they were tired. But here is where the story escalates from a sports debate into something that genuinely got people heated. Because right as Shaq was dropping his load management truth bombs, LeBron James and Kevin Durant were sitting together on LeBron's Mind the Game podcast with Steve Nash. And they decided that Michael Jordan was a reasonable topic to take shots at. Durant started it. He began musing about what it is like to stay motivated deep into a career. Years in, multiple MVPs, multiple championships. And he floated the idea that at some point, players need a different kind of push. And then he said it. Some people go play baseball and then want to come back, with a smirk. With LeBron sitting right there, laughing along. Now let's be very precise about what just happened in that moment. Because Durant and LeBron were not just making a casual observation about career choices. They were making a joke about Michael Jordan, about baseball. And if you know the actual story behind why Jordan walked away from basketball in 1993, and you should because it is one of the most human and devastating chapters in sports history, then you understand exactly why that smirk was so deeply wrong. James Jordan, Michael's father, was murdered on July 23, 1993. He had pulled over at a rest stop to sleep. 2 teenagers shot him, stole his car, and left his body in a swamp. The man who believed in Michael before anyone else did. The man who watched his son become the greatest player alive. Taken in the most brutal, senseless way imaginable. Michael Jordan did not leave basketball because he was bored. He did not leave because the grind got old. He left because he was grieving. Because his father had always dreamed of seeing him play professional baseball. And honoring that dream, in the immediate aftermath of unspeakable loss, was the most human thing Jordan could have done. He did it at the absolute peak of his powers. Right after completing a three-peat, the only player in history to win 6 championships and 6 finals MVPs. He walked away not because he ran from pressure, not because a better opportunity presented itself somewhere else, but because his heart was broken and he was trying to carry his father's dream across the finish line. And Kevin Durant, a man whose most famous career decision was joining the team that just beat him in the playoffs because he could not figure out how to beat them, sat on a podcast and smirked about it, with LeBron laughing along. The audacity of that moment is genuinely difficult to overstate. LeBron then added his own contribution to the MJ discussion, suggesting the triangle offense would not work in today's game because the modern game is too advanced. He talked about longevity as a measure of greatness. He questioned why championships are discussed so much in basketball. He said, and this is real, actual words that came out of his mouth, "It's just basketball at the end of the day. Just basketball." This from a man who built his entire public identity around the pursuit of rings, who left Cleveland for Miami specifically to win championships, who formed a super team, who went back to Cleveland, who then left for Los Angeles, who has structured every major career decision around maximizing his championship count and his legacy positioning. And now that the gap between him and Jordan's 6 rings is not going to close, now that the math has stopped working in his favor, suddenly championships are not the all-be-all of everything. The goalpost did not just move. It got picked up, put in a truck, and driven to a completely different city. Kevin Durant's contribution to the revisionism is equally worth examining. This is a man who, in 2016, watched his Oklahoma City Thunder blow a 3-1 lead to the Golden State Warriors in the Western Conference Finals. And his response to that loss was to join Golden State, not to come back harder, not to rebuild and try again, to join the team that beat him, a team that already had Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green, a team that had just won 73 regular season games, a team that did not need Kevin Durant to be great. They were already great. Fans called it the weakest move in superstar history. It is very hard to argue against that characterization. And it did not stop there. When things got complicated in Brooklyn, Durant demanded a trade. When Phoenix did not work out the way he planned, he moved on again. Every time the situation required him to dig in and grind through adversity, he found a door and walked through it. This is the man smirking about Michael Jordan's baseball break. LeBron is not in a position to throw stones either. When the Boston Celtics stood between him and a championship in Cleveland, he did not stay and fight. He held a television special to announce he was leaving for Miami. When Miami's window closed, he left Pat Riley mid-rebuild. When Cleveland started cracking, he relocated to Los Angeles. Every single time the path got hard, he found an easier one. Jordan faced the Chicago Bulls' dysfunction, the bad boy Pistons beating him year after year, the weight of an entire city's hope, and he stayed. He ground through it. He figured out how to win against the teams that were stopping him, instead of finding a way to join them or leave. Charles Barkley cut through the noise with the kind of honesty that only retired players who stopped caring about being liked can deliver. These guys hide behind analytics and agents. What they're really trying to do is extend their careers. In plain terms, more seasons means more max contracts. More max contracts means another $500 million. The load management is not about health, it is about money. And the MJ revisionism is not about historical accuracy. It is about making the gap between Jordan's legacy and theirs look smaller than it actually is. The numbers tell the full story without anyone needing to editorialize. Jordan played 13 full seasons, 6 championships, 6 finals MVPs, 5 regular season MVPs, 10 scoring titles, 9 all-defensive first-team selections. LeBron and Durant combined have nearly 40 seasons of basketball between them. Their combined total is 6 championships, 5 MVPs, 6 finals MVPs, and 5 all-defensive first-team selections combined. After almost 3 times the playing time, they still cannot match what Jordan did in barely a decade. Jordan played at least 80 games in 9 different seasons. He played all 82 games 6 times. The only seasons he did not were when he was genuinely injured or returning from retirement. He played the flu game, running a 103-degree fever in Game 5 of the NBA Finals, and dropped 38 points. He collapsed into Scottie Pippen's arms at the final buzzer, completely emptied. And when asked why, he said simply, "I was going to find a way out there, even as a decoy. Once you're competing, you never know what happens." That is the difference. That is what Shaq is talking about. Jordan did not play to preserve himself for year 20. He played to win every single night because anything less would have felt like a betrayal of the game and the people watching it. The NBA eventually had to create a rule requiring players to appear in at least 65 games just to qualify for MVP or All-NBA consideration. Think about that. The league had to legislate showing up. The legends who built this sport would have found that incomprehensible. Shaq found it incomprehensible too, and he said so, loudly, without apology, because someone had to. Michael Jordan played sick, played hurt, and played every single night because he respected the game too much to do anything else. Shaq saw that firsthand and refuses to let anyone rewrite it. If this video reminded you what real greatness looks like, hit that like button and subscribe. We are not done talking about this, not even close.